Hi, everybody. It's Christina West, and we have another week of art and healing. And today we're diving deep. This is going to be an esoteric podcast, a vlog on evil and how does a human being cross-culturally seed good when the world's on fire. How do we do that? What is spiritual resistance? We're going to go into. What is persistence? What is the nature of a spiritual warrior? And the different kinds of spiritual warriors, because they can be very quiet and their technique is very different from someone who's an advocate and is outwardly in action. So many of you probably don't know that I studied evil for many, many years before I did my Sophia installation in Berkeley in 2002, 2004. And I had many, many years of studying what is the nature of evil, because I was very, very interested in the nature of consciousness and wanted to know, does evil manifest outwardly as a spiritual path? And it does. And that question and that study through all kinds of traditions, through psychology, through myths and legends and fairy tales, through history and culture and spiritual traditions and evolution and nurture versus nature, I did a deep dive on what is the nature of evil. And this ongoing research question of what is the nature of evil led me to the other question, of course, which what is the nature of good? And is there a path of good like there's a path of darkness or evil? And that led me to the question of how does good manifest and how does good manifest in the physical body? And I have on my computer glasses today because I'm going to be doing some reading. I don't want to lose track because this is a very important vlog and how art can integrate into our life of feeling. So this painting is a woman's power dakini. This is about fierce feminine power. And we need to wake up our feminine, don't we? We're living in a time when evil is not just a philosophical concept, but an active human force shaping the world. It's moving through our institutions, culture, and human thinking, seeking to solidify itself in the fabric of our reality. This is not the mindless chaos of old, but a structured force, twisting truth into falsehood and subverting the very foundations of what it means to be human, but subverting the very foundations of what it means to be human. Those who walk an esoteric path, who see with inner eyes, understand that we are not merely spectators. We are called to something greater, to embed the forces of good into time itself. So we're talking about time and space. We are called to something greater, to embed the forces of good into time itself, to hold the line against the rising darkness with unwavering resolve. So I went to a lecture on a Manichaean who's written a number of books on Mani, Christine Gerwitz, and she gave one of the most remarkable lectures because I'm a precognitive dreamer. And so I see, and it's happened since I was very, very young. And every morning I see pictures of the future that's coming. And it's every day, and I'm in my middle years. And so that's hundreds of thousands of images that I've seen that happen in the future. And this is actually a new consciousness that Rudolf Steiner said was going to happen in 1910. He was starting to give lectures on this new consciousness that was going to happen starting about 1930, 33 and onwards. And now most people actually have precognition. Steiner called it etheric vision. So the concept of this woman who was giving a lecture on Mani, and Mani, the creation story of the Manichaean creation myth is that evil tried to throw its darkness over good, the good. And the good, being good, could not do bad to evil to overcome it because its very nature is goodness. So the good had to overcome the darkness by showing good to evil. That's the basic creation story of Manichaeanism, which is dark and light. Ahura Mazda, the great light, against Ahriman, the cold darkness. Weight, measure. Her idea, in very simple terms, is time and space is what we live in this duality. And that evil that we're seeing today in the US and America, which is siphoning out all over the world to all kinds of different cultures and countries. And we are all having to deal with this nature of evil or chaos. And in Santa Barbara, we had the fires in 2025, which started, the new year coming in. And as any shaman knows, the weather is a spiritual picture of the emotional life of who's living in that land spirit. And it's also, I think, a spiritual picture of what was coming, because the events that are coming throw its light forward. We actually see it because that's what precognition is. We have glimpses of the future. And you're talking to somebody who, when 9/11 hadn't happened yet, I was in Berkeley and I was in the dream studies program. And for about 4 months, maybe longer, I was in dreadful agony. I've never experienced such extreme tiredness and dread, just constant dread that something terrible was about to happen. And I even went to the teacher of the dream studies program and made an appointment and asked her a question, are you having any of these experiences? And she said, no. And a few days, that was actually 9/9, I made that appointment. And I said, I've had a lot of weird experiences, and this sort of takes the cake. I have never experienced, it's like I'm fighting a battle. I'm waking up absolutely exhausted with such dread. So 10/11, 2 days later, my roommate wakes me up and I'm dreaming. And I'm actually dreaming of the two towers and planes flying into the two towers. And my roommate drags me into her room because I didn't have a TV, being a spiritual person. And she showed me what was on TV, and it's exactly what I was dreaming. So I was seeing in the dream time as a precognitive experience what was actually happening in real time. So I want to start this vlog with this because precognition is normal for millions and millions of people. And I'm just one that was lucky enough to have a dad that taught me a dream work based on Steiner's methodology, and I have used it to great gifts and goodness. So this woman also studied Steiner, and her lecture was on the manifestation, how things manifest in time and space in our duality. And she said that evil is a force, say, that is coming down, and it then manifests in form in whatever way that is. And we're seeing how it's manifesting now with tariffs and people getting fired, and then the orders are rescinded, and then this and that, and the stock market going down. And this is a strategy. This has actually been planned probably for years in advance, this strategy. And so this vlog is actually a call to what can artists, creatives, and spiritual warriors do at this time. Hence the Dakini, the sky dancer behind me, which is a painting I did many, many years ago. And I'll show you the entire painting at the end of this vlog. So she said that as things are coming into manifestation, it's subtle, it's flexible, and it's the time when spiritual seekers can actually, spiritual seekers can integrate into the stream of becoming evil as it's becoming and ameliorate it, perhaps erase it, perhaps diminish it, perhaps make it invisible, make it go away. And that is something that this vlog is about. How can we, as spiritual practitioners, as creatives, every week I do vlogs on art and healing, art and healing, art and healing, art and healing. I've studied with shamans, I've done Wicca magic, ceremonial magic, all of it. I've done the Guru Path, I've done Hindu, Buddhism, Western mystery tradition, Christianity. And what's helpful with that, I've done Jungian psychology, myths and legends, archetypes, dream work, is I can talk to people from a lot of different viewpoints because I love God in all its manifestations. So this is something that when I studied evil in the 1990s, and that led me to the big dream to leave my home and go to Berkeley. And I did the Transformational Arts and Consciousness program, How Artists Can Change the World in JFK, John F. Kennedy University in Berkeley. It ended with this study in evil research became the question of what is good and is there a path of good and what does that look like and what happens to the human body, which led me to incorruptible bodies and all kinds of wonderful things. But it also, because I'm a precognitive, I deal with time. Time coming from the future and what we call time like now heading into the future. So these two streams of time, if we can wake up our I consciousness in these two streams of time, Emil Bach, who was a Christian community priest, said, if you can see the future, you can plant seeds for the future. So I want to give you this idea, which most people on earth have never even heard of, is that we could work into the stream of time as evil is being manifested in the world. It's still flexible enough to work on it. Once things are in manifestation, it's a little bit more difficult, but you could read Larry Dossey's work on One Mind and also my favorite, Premonitions. And this really is Precognitions, the whole book. I've read that book over and over and over. It is just a knockout on this new consciousness that we all have. And he is also saying that they've done tests at Duke University with trying to change the outcome in the stream of time. So this isn't just Christina West from Santa Barbara being woo-woo in California. This is Duke University, which has led the science and consciousness, the remote viewing and all of that. All right, so this question isn't way over our heads. This question is, can I as a human being work into this evil as it's becoming in the world? Because the time is now. The time is now. That's actually a mystery tradition word. When you hear it, you're to wake up. The time is now. The future is here. Evil is now. The battle is now. And it's a battle of good versus evil. So how can creatives, spiritual practitioners, regular human beings, how can we beat the devil? So I've got this written here because it's pretty dense and I want to be able to read it to you. Those who walk an esoteric path, who see with inner eyes, understand that we're not merely spectators. We are called to something greater, to embed the forces of good into time itself, to hold the line against this rising darkness with unwavering resolve. But what does it mean to embed good? This is no passive gesture, no mere wishing for a better world. If I just close my eyes, it'll all go away and love and light, it'll all be love and light. This is not that. Spiritual bypassing, that's called. This is a conscious act of spiritual defiance. Every deed, every thought, every work of art, prayer, and act of moral courage carves a space where the higher worlds can still reach into the earthly realm. Because we're talking about physics, we're talking about string theory, we're talking about atoms dancing in and out of manifestation, working there. As spiritual practitioners, as human beings with prayers, we have the forces of our prayers now. Every deed, every thought, every work of art, prayer, and act of moral courage carves a space or creates a space where the higher worlds can still reach into the earthly realm. This is not about fighting darkness on its own terms, which only strengthens it. Instead, it is about radiating something so true inside of us, so unwavering that it can't be subverted. The power of good is not weak or abstract. Now listen up. It is the original creative force. It is the original creative force. And when embodied fully, it stands as an unbreakable pillar against entropy. The test before us is one of will and perception. The test before us is one of will and perception. Can we stand firm in the face of forces that seek to erode our souls? Can we remain creators in a time of destruction? The spiritual warrior does not wait for rescue or escape. They act as a bridge between worlds, grounding light in the physical. This is the work of mystery traditions, of those who have always known that history bends at the hands of a few who carry the flame. The question is, will you be one of them? Will you be one of them? Will I be one of them? So I'm also going to talk about something as a shamanic practitioner working with shamans and adepts and gurus and seers and indigenous folks, that Goethe wrote the wonderful Faust, Goethe's Faust. And in it, he says that the biggest joke the devil has played on humanity is he's convinced humanity he doesn't exist. Every single tradition knows there's evil. And every single tradition knows there's evil in the physical world and evil in the spiritual world. And that in the old days used to be called the lower astral, where when you had a bad trip, you would go. And that is still available to anybody. You can look at some of the movies that were made, have this capacity to show some of these realms that are unfiltered and dark. So there are demons. There are demons. And what feeds a demon? What do you think feeds a demon? Fear. Fear feeds demons. Fear, anger. Nobody wants to hear that. So also part of, and let me tell you, I've had the demons plenty in my life. But now we're being called to do something else. The time is now, and this is the time that we were born for. The Hopis have that prophecy. This is the time that we've been waiting for. Yeah, I just switched to a mandala. I know so little, but I've studied shamanism for 20 and Western mystery traditions and Wicca and all that for many, many, many years, maybe, well, actually most of my life. So what I do know is each mandala is different, and it's a doorway, it's a portal. And look at the tremendous capability, the tremendous training. So you're not just seeing some pretty sand paintings. They are with tremendous intention and years and years and years of sacrifice to hone these skills giving the world a gift. And then what do they do when it's done? They take I think it's called the Dorje, and they destroy the mandala. So it goes into the spiritual world for healing and strength. So this is the same idea that we're talking about being a spiritual warrior, about our prayers, or about our art, or about if we stop the blame, shame, anger, and transform that into spiritual strength to give to the world now, that's actually changing your will from feeding the demons to feeding the good spirits who can use our forces to overcome, to ameliorate, to stop, to sway, to discourage, to dismiss. Okay. And is AI going to destroy the world? Is another vlog you might want to take a look at if you want to understand what is sacred art, because that is up on YouTube. And again, that is AI going to destroy artists or something like that? I don't have the title right to hand. But if you're interested in the power of healing art, this is what we're talking about. And the Tibetans are the masters. Spiritual resistance is not mere opposition. It is the conscious act of standing in truth when all the forces press against it. It is dauntless courage in the face of deception, the refusal to be bent by fear, and the unshakable knowing that good is not an abstraction, but a living power we are called to embody. And we know this with Buddha, Krishna, all the religions, all the traditions, all the gods, all the goddesses. They're fearless. And we can go back to the Bhagavad Gita when Krishna was afraid to face his family, his cultural relatives, and Krishna comes down and counsels Arjuna on what to do. Did I say Arjuna or Krishna? Arjuna has to battle his relatives, and Krishna comes down and says, I myself have taken the enemy. They are already dead. You are merely my hand. So do not be afraid, Arjuna. So in another way, we could say that we are in the hands of the gods, of the good gods, but we must do our part. We must activate our will. We can't be apathetic or depressed or it's overwhelming and no, I can't do anything. Because trust me, I feel that too. Don't. So yeah, but here's my vlog for us to keep going. It's dauntless courage in the face of deception, the refusal to be bent by fear, and the unshakable knowing that good is not an abstraction, but a living power. It's not just a power. These are beings of goodness, real spiritual beings we can count on and we can call for. We are called to embody. Evil seeks passivity. It thrives when people shrink back or are overwhelmed by the magnitude of evil. But spiritual resistance does not shrink. It does not rage in blind reaction either. Instead, it holds the line with a force that is both immovable and creative. Instead, I'm going to repeat that. Instead, it holds the line with a force that is both immovable and creative, seeding goodness where the soil has been poisoned. So again, remember, evil is in its manifestation, what in terms can be called the becoming of evil. It's in its becoming. And the easiest way to ameliorate or change something or shift something is before we have our solidified thought form that we know this is this and that is that. But when we're not quite sure, that's when we're still forming. We're in the becoming of our own opinion. But also evil as a force as it's becoming, that's our chance. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. Now is the time. That's actually a mystery term, by the way, in the mystery traditions. That's the time to wake up when you hear that. Now is the time. This resistance is not just about belief, it's about presence. It's about showing up day after day in the world as it is, yet refusing to succumb to despair or cynicism. To see goodness in the face of manifesting evil, meaning it's being manifested, means to become a vessel for it. Goodness, to become a vessel for goodness. To see goodness in the face of the evil as it's manifesting into form means to become a vessel, to radiate through thought, word, and deed, your unwavering good intent, your unwavering good actions, your unwavering good belief, your unwavering good prayers. This is the power of a spiritual warrior. Not one who seeks to destroy, but one who seeks to transform. Every act of kindness done with clarity, every truth spoken into darkness, every kindness for someone who's hurting, every gift to someone who's poor, every chance to give when you can and to receive when you're needy is an act of goodness. Every act of kindness done with clarity, every truth of goodness spoken into the darkness, every piece of art, of beauty, or wisdom brought forth in defiance of corruption is a strike in this battle, is a blow in this battle. Because we're enculturated with the warrior archetype, it's really difficult to say words that have strength without talking about fighting. The forces that are seeking to unmake the world cannot withstand what is truly human. The forces that are seeking to unmake the world cannot withstand what is truly human. And that's a question I'm going to ask you. What does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to be a human being? What does it mean to be creative out of our human element, not AI, not a computer generated art, out of our human being, our heart, our soul, our mind, our will? The creative, loving, truth-bearing presence of our awakened soul is what we are seeding now into this chaos as it's storming the gate. We are awakening as souls. Remember, evil is the thrust block of good. This isn't easy work. I know it. And I would love to tuck into my bed and watch Netflix for the next 4 years. That ain't going to happen. I'm here blogging for you. And I hope to God, if you think this is good, share it, please. Share it with someone who's hurting. Share it with somebody who's scared. Share it with someone who can pick up some paint and do some art for themselves. Go listen to my vlog on the Athena, the guardian of my home. I'm trying to every week give us deep spiritual practices taken from 30 years of working with shamans, but a lifetime of the clarity of Western mystery traditions and all the different traditions that actually will change your soul. Metanoia, change your mind and soul. Spiritual resistance requires vigilance, not only against the outer forces that are seeking to pull us into hatred, fear, but also against the subtler forces within ourselves that whisper doubt, exhaustion, or compromise. Dauntless courage means walking this path even when we feel alone or are alone, other than our spiritual helpers. Even when the weight of the world presses in, and yet those who take up this task are never truly alone. There is a living stream of those who have walked before. Oh. Yeah. My father left Germany when Hitler was rising to power. So my dad's with me. He's on the other side in the sun realm. There is a living stream of those who have walked before, those who hold this light alongside of us, seen and unseen. The work is now to anchor that light more deeply into the world, to be not just believers in good, but its living manifestation. The time is now. The battle is here. Will we stand? Will we stand? Will you stand? Will I stand? I may be old, but I'm standing firm. So again, the definition of dauntless means not to be intimidated. How does a black belt spar? How do the knights face their enemies? So dauntless courage is the art of standing firm in the presence of danger. We can think of Parsifal, right? Unshaken, unbroken, and utterly unafraid. Now that comes and goes, utterly unafraid. But we can be not intimidated. And that is dauntless courage, not to be intimidated by the bully boys. This is not reckless aggression, nor is it passive endurance. It is the fierce clarity of one who knows who they are and why they stand. A black belt does not flinch when an opponent strikes, and they do not wildly lash out in fear or rage. They move with precision, flowing with the energy of the fight, using strategy, presence, and skill to turn the battle to their favor. Their power lies in discipline, in the trained response that does not yield to panic. So when I got my belt, I went beyond a black belt, but not too far after. But it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of owies and bruises and bangs and learning to fall over and over, just self-defense, self-defense, self-defense. Ugh. So the training of an athlete comes in really good at this time. Just change it, transform it into spiritual resistance, if this is something you choose to do. This is the nature of true spiritual resistance, a poised, conscious defiance that refuses to be drawn into the chaos around us. The Knights of the Round Table understood this. They did not charge blindly into battle. They prepared, they fortified themselves inwardly and outwardly. Before facing an enemy, they knelt in prayer, seeking alignment with a higher force, higher than themselves. Their armor was not just a pounded metal, but a symbol of inner fortitude. Their shield, the discipline of their mind. Their sword, the word of truth. The greatest warriors knew that battle was not only fought on the field, but in the soul. To face darkness, one must conquer fear within. To face darkness, to face this evil that is in its becoming, in its manifestation, and it's just begun. This is just month 2, right? We have to be inwardly prepared. Also, there were the Native American warriors of the Plains Indians, those who counted coup. And that's another coup to count, C-O-U-P, instead of the coup that's going on now. The Native American warriors counted coup, who in the heat of battle would ride straight up, straight into the heart of danger, not to kill, but to touch their enemy. Sometimes I'm overcome with this sort of bravery. Sorry, I'm deeply moved. They would touch their enemy, which was called counting coup, to touch them, to mark them, to say, I see you. You will meet your maker today. This was not about destruction. It was about presence. about the unshakable force of a soul that does not bow to intimidation. Tremendous courage and manners. They had courtly rules of conduct, of battle, courtly, honor the other. That's also the evil that's becoming, is not to honor the other, even in the ancient ritual of battle, of becoming a foe. To seed good in a world unraveling with evil requires the same audacity. It requires stepping forward, unafraid to engage, unafraid to be seen, unafraid to act, to touch, to count coup on this evil as it's in its process of becoming manifest, stepping forward as a living bridge between the higher worlds and this one. The spiritual warrior does not hide. Now, the silent warriors who nobody's going to see, they're tremendous spiritual power. We're not talking about them. Those are our allies. Spiritual warriors meet the enemy face to face. And this also includes the quiet ones. Knowing that true power is not destruction, but truth. The question remains, will you stand? Will you step forward, untouchable in spirit, and place your mark upon the battle of this age? Will you count coup on the enemy? Will you count coup on this enemy we're facing? I'll show you the picture, the entire painting of her afterwards. I'm going to finish this vlog. I'm so glad I went to that spiritual study because the vlog came out of the dauntless courage. If millions of human beings, conscious, awake, and unafraid, began to see goodness into the fabric of time itself, what force could stand against it? Evil thrives on division, on fear, on the illusion that we are powerless. But what if we understood that each thought, each deed, each act of courage is a stone cast into the waters of history, creating ripples that move beyond what we can see? Evil does not create, it only corrupts. But we, as spiritual warriors, as bearers of the original creative force, as creators, we can plant something stronger, the living seed of good, rooted in time, woven into the world's unfolding. Imagine millions standing firm, refusing to yield to despair, refusing to feed the chaos with reactionary fear, instead of radiating something different, but instead radiating something different. Goodness, clarity, unshakable will. This is not passive hope. This is a fierce, disciplined work of those who know that reality bends where human consciousness directs it. What if, instead of being dragged into the tide of darkness, we became the ones who turned the tide? The knights of old fortified themselves with prayers before battle. Shamans and mystics saw behind the veil, beyond the veil, and called down forces greater than themselves. The warrior who counts coup does not do so to destroy, but to mark, to signal they have entered the field and that they are here, and they are unafraid, dauntless. Will you be one of the millions who refuses to cower, who stand as living pillars, who anchor the forces of good into this world with every breath, every action, every thought? This is the great test of our time. This is the great test of our time. The battle is not coming. It is here, now. And what happens next depends on those who stand. And I'm going to end this vlog with the power of prayer. Prayer is not a whisper into the void. It is a force, a summons, a fiery arrow loosed into the heart of the world. The silent spiritual dissenter standing unseen yet unyielding, calls upon the strength of her ancestors, weaving their wisdom into her words. She does not need a battlefield. Her power moves through unseen realms. She does not need a battlefield where true battles are won. With every prayer, she fortifies the wall of goodness, sending forth currents of protection, clarity, and awakening. This isn't passive wishing. This is a direct action in the spiritual world, a force that evil cannot touch. To pray with intention of goodness is to stand in the storm and wield light as a weapon, shaping the future, bending time towards truth, beauty, and goodness. So that's our task, and that's our question. Seeding good in a world on fire, the esoteric warrior's path. Standing at the threshold, how to anchor light as evil unfolds. The great test. Will you hold the line against the darkness? Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Christina West Art, and also my website, Christina West Art, for weekly vlogs, meditations, and art and healing from a deep psychological, spiritual, shamanic, archetypal point of view. Let's get creative with our goodness. Remember to pray to your ancestors every night, asking for help. They're here to help us.